Great. Okay. Let's just do a little practice to settle in first for a couple of minutes, yeah?
Okay. Just warning, I do have no migraines if I'm moody. That's why.
Just going to give you
Do you
death
get
stares.
physical?
I have like a feel in my head, so it's
Have you
fine.
taken anything?
I don't really have to take anything, but I have loads to eat and drink, so.
Do you want to turn the light off?
No, it's fine. I've just been staring at a screen for literally like the past 3 days. That's probably why.
I've only had a few migraines in my life, but they are.
Awful.
They're terrible. It's like I think Ash said up ahead and you feel nauseous. I'm not going to be sick anymore.
The first time I ever had it was I was sitting opposite a client, and I was talking to them, and I was like, "What's going on?"
It goes in your eyes.
Yeah.
Well, half their face disappeared, and I was like,
I know, it's so good.
"What is going on?" And then I started getting these little flashes coming in, and then yeah. So yeah, I know it's not fun, but hopefully just relax, take it easy.
Don't feel the pain.
No, so don't feel, or do feel the
Tune
pain,
into the pain.
but only as much as you can. Okay, so let's just relax and arrive here for a minute. Just sort of feeling into the surface beneath you, connecting in with the environment around you, sights and sounds, everything welcome. So just taking a moment to reflect on what it is that's led you to come to this course. What it is, to remind yourself what it is that you're looking to get out of it. We're starting the second half of it now. And just allow your mind to settle. No need to think too long or hard about anything. Just let a sense of ease settle over you. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I thought today, it's not so much I thought today, this is the week that we do, look at some of the little sort of obstacles that get in our way of life. But actually, the way I want to look at it is very much from the perspective of a sort of life plan, in broad brushstrokes of a sense. So for us all to just have a bit of a sense of what it is we want to get out of this one precious life. So, because it's quite important, that we don't just sleepwalk through it all, which is what we have a tendency to do. It's even you young ladies are getting older. I'm definitely getting older, but time just ticks on, and it's kind of worthwhile having a bit of a sense of what you want to make of this journey. So I'm going to break it down into a few different layers that we'll come back and look at in a while. Now when I say some of these things, I'm not saying we're necessarily going to break each down into the tiniest of detail, but I want us to look at our goals, at so these are the sort of constituent parts of what we're going to be looking at. I'll make it a bit clearer in a second what I'm referring to. So those are the areas I want us to sort of basically look at. So we're going to look in a second at the sort of archetypal goals of life. And it's a kind of way that, any of you heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yeah,
I was writing an essay linking something to that earlier.
Excellent. Earlier today?
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't ask me to recall it.
So Maslow's hierarchy of needs we're going to look at as a sort of foundation of that. So you think of this as a journey, okay? So your life is basically, start off, you're born, and you want to actually achieve the greatest fulfillment in your life, however you choose to determine what fulfillment is. You're going to need energy to get there. I'm going to use a bit of an analogy. The reason I put vehicles is because if you're going on a journey, you go in a car, or a bicycle, or a bus, or a plane. You need fuel to get you there, and how long is the journey going to take? Okay, these are all sort of factors when you're planning a journey. Yeah. So, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Our goals. Again, it's not specific goals, but it's motivations. Okay, the things that drive us. Now, Maslow didn't actually depict it in a triangle, but we get to it, as often is. So, there are 7 archetypal, is the right word, levels of human needs, the things that drive us. So, I don't need to look any further than Elsie to get what the most basic, foundational need of a human being is.
Is that physiological needs?
Yes!
Go on now.
Well done. Physiological needs, like.
I don't know. I only refer to one of them in like a sentence. Like water.
Sorry?
So home, safety, like shelter.
No.
That's a different one.
No, it's different.
I don't know.
Okay, so physiological needs would be things like the basic survival stuff that you need: food, water, air, energy. It's I think food, clothing. It does actually include shelter as well, actually. Sleep and procreation. So those are the base drivers of human existence, yeah? Until we've got those sorted, we don't look really at going any higher up the tree. If we haven't got enough water to drink, we don't give a damn about any of these higher goals. You know, that's what we need first of all: food, water, shelter. So those are our main things. Second to that, next one up, once we've got those sorted, to at least to some degree, what are we going for next?
Safety.
Safety.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm literally just going to
This is my girl.
Okay, I'm going to keep us. Safety, yeah. So, and that's a very primal sort of instinct as well, isn't it? Doesn't look quite spelled right, but it is. It's just my wonky handwriting, I think. So, yeah, that's basically physical safety, but also it translates into economic safety. So, you know, that in the modern economics world of in the modern world of economics, you know, we don't barter food. You know, we need money for it. So, safety, you know, is also about having our ability to have enough funds to keep us going, as well as keeping safe from wild animals and the like. Okay, the next one is not quite so obvious, but it's kind of a nice one.
love and belonging. No,
Yep.
is that right? Is that actually right? No wells. I actually thought that because I was thinking that's not a basic, is it?
I'm reckoning we're going to get lovely markers.
I just
Yeah.
went for it for some
Yeah.
media.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a really important thing. And if you're thinking, we're looking at the motivations of our lives, we do. We kind of belonging within a social framework, friendship, love, and it kind of ties into the physiological need of procreation as well. But that's all, what value is our life if it's just to survive on food and water? I mean, it doesn't really fulfill much, does it? Love starts to fulfill the much deeper need in our lives. Okay, next one.
Food and water? No. Oh god, so I'm done with the bag now.
What is it? Come on.
I've actually got no idea what it would be, to be fair. I've been thinking.
You have?
No, I've done it.
Oh,
The love and belonging is really
I am cheating because I am looking myself, but
wait.
Material stuff?
no.
No.
Food and water? I didn't get it. Wait, what the first letter was it? Esteem.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have got that.
So, esteem. So that's both basically self-esteem and the esteem and respect of others. So, yeah, it kind of gives a sense of self-worth. Put a line across there. So, good. I'm going to divide this triangle into two. Now these four are what are called oh dear.
Don't worry, I'm really dyslexic. I know it's going to notice.
It's completely badly. I put deficiency. It's deficiency.
Deficiency. Looks right to me.
Deficiency means. So basically, if we don't have enough of these things, they're basically lack of those things makes our lives pretty miserable, pretty basic. And the things above this are slightly more ethereal. They're bonuses on top, but they're important as well. So the thing is with these, once you get up to this level, and you're not interested in the esteem of your colleagues or your self-respect if you haven't got love already, at least to some degree. You haven't got safety and you haven't got food and water and shelter. Yeah. So all of these, you have to have a certain amount of one before you really worry about the next. Yeah. But the thing is that when a lot of people, when they get to this level, it's a lot of people, that sounds a bit judgmental, but it's not uncommon. A lot of people get to this level and kind of think that's the top of the pyramid. Well, subconsciously think that's the top of the pyramid. So by that, they might think, I've got a nice house and plenty of food. I've got I'm in a gated compound, and I've got security guards. I've got my lovely wife, and part of an impressive support group, and I have my Rolls Royce that I drive around in. Everybody looks up to me. I'm a celebrity. I've got everything I could possibly want in life. Because our modern culture has a tendency to make us think that fame and fortune is what it's all about. This kind of esteem is where that's at. So it's very easy for a lot of people when they get to this level to just think that you've got to keep feeding these things. Yeah. So have a nicer car, have a bigger house. But the problem is that you're missing off some of the more subtle but really deeply nourishing things in life. These are the things, these are more your needs, these are more the things that make you feel fulfilled in life. So when we're looking at goals, it's worth seeing beyond the obvious material gains in life. So, what do you think that one might be?
I want to guess that it's doing giving to others, but I've got no idea.
I think it's bloody one out. I thought it was 7, it's 8. How am I going to make
Just add a little box on this side.
I'm going to have to do it like that.
Is it
Like really small.
motivation? No, I don't know.
Sorry?
Do something to do with like motivation goals?
No.
I guess you don't know.
Evidence?
These, when you write them, you're like, oh yeah.
Cognition.
Cognitive.
Cognitive.
Cognitive needs is basically,
It's like busy doing stuff. Isn't
well,
it?
the cognitive, it's sort of knowledge.
Okay.
So cognition, you know, the mind. So if you have all of these things, but you're ignorant, okay, so if you have become a child film star or a child sports player, and all of your efforts have gone into making you physically capable of doing well, you've done really, really well, you're a teenage superstar, you've made lots of money, but you never had an education, then you're going to be missing out on the sort of cognitive needs, the need to understand the world around you, to have a perspective on life. Yeah? So that's one of them. Another one, the next one up. It's kind of similar or sort of parallel to that, but it's aesthetic needs. A sense of beauty, an appreciation of beauty in the world. I'm sure you all have an appreciation of beauty.
Yeah, we love the aesthetics.
Yeah. You're an artist. So, yeah, you know, that's a relatively high need. If you know, one of the things, because I love aesthetics, and do you know, when I was in roughly my mid to late 20s, I got a job in Poland selling forklift trucks, just after the fall of the Eastern Bloc. And I was trained as a fine art auctioneer originally. This was a slightly strange job. But not only did I have no interest in forklift trucks, although the closest thing I had to any interest was that they were ergonomically designed by Porsche, these particular ones I sold. So they were quite expensive, but they were still more function than form. Poland as a country flattened during the Second World War, practically no beautiful architecture. I found myself starved of aesthetics when I was working in Poland. And that's a sad thing to say, but it's true, that's what I experienced. So, you know, that's something that an awful lot of us get a lot of pleasure out of. You know, it doesn't have to be any one thing. You know, you go for a walk. How many people take photographs on holiday of the sunset?
We did that on holiday.
I do that in England.
Yeah, every day.
You're struck by beauty. It's an important thing in life. It gives richness to our life
I'm very
experience.
good at aesthetic. Like my room, like I love like the interior stuff. It makes my like
Yeah.
environment happy.
Being
Yeah.
outside.
As a human being, it's an important thing. Next one. Come on, Alison. Go for it. You've got this one.
I never heard of these ones.
Haven't you?
No. Actualization. Yeah, I'll actually have. I've not heard of the cognitive aesthetic. I think it like esteem and self-actualization.
I think there are different models, actually, to
Yeah.
be fair. So self-actualization is basically being the best that you can be in all of these. That doesn't necessarily mean it translates into great money, but you have, to a significant degree, got all of those things kind of sorted. They're balanced in your life, and you have a self-fulfillment in that sense. But there is one more higher up.
I don't know who's reaching that top one, but
It's not a high-end sports car, is it?
Do you think you're going to get it? In fact, it's quite appropriate, but it doesn't fit into the box, actually.
Not on my lap.
Transcendence. So transcendence is...
No, as in not
Sorry?
as in I think I've done a different one, but yeah, sorry.
So transcendence, you can look at it in a spiritual context, but you can also just look at it in a practical context. So when you've got all of these things sorted, when you transcend your personal needs and your life starts to focus on the good of others, you go beyond the self and in helping others in whatever way you like, not just giving money to the poor, but teaching. Doing anything, but but basically doing things that are for the good of the whole. So, and generally, doing them because there's something that needs to be done, something that's of value. So, that, now, obviously, if you look at that in its purest sense, you might say, well, that's doing something with absolutely nothing coming back to you, you could perhaps say. But, do you know, one of the things that I have found most in my life, and I can't say I've got all of these completely sorted, but they are to some degree, and the thing that I have found most rewarding in my life so far, in terms of my goals, has been, although I get paid for running these courses, things like your dad, the difference that it's made to his life, and the fact that he expresses that gives me a nice warm glowy feeling inside. It really does.
Gives me one too.
Yeah.
Really nice.
So, it's when you do things sort of that aren't just for yourself, there is something that is deeply rewarding that you can't possibly get from, it's a very squiffy triangle, isn't it, now, a bit like that, that you can't possibly get from something like self-esteem. Where people stop at that blue line. So these are growth needs. So why are we going into all of this? Because I think it's important on this journey of life to try and have a pretty open perspective on what it is you want to get out of it. Yeah? We've learned how to deal, or we are learning, we have the tools at our disposal anyhow, to learn how to deal better with stress, but it's an ongoing process, how to cope better with pain, emotional, physical pain, and I think to have an overview of what direction you're heading in life is really, really important, because if you're getting majorly stressed out because, and I'm not saying that this is your case, yours has got a different motivation than what I'm going to use as an example, but if your self-esteem is based around how much money and power and possessions you've got, then generally speaking, a lot of those deficiency needs can be seen as being never enough. If you've bought a new Ferrari, and you think, oh, this makes me feel good, yeah, but a month later it's just parked in the garage, and you're like, well, it must be that I need the next model of Ferrari or a Bugatti, so I'll go and buy one of those. I actually feel good too. But again, it dies off, because all these things have limited lifespan, yeah? But these above, you can walk. I'm sure I told you, my teacher Daizan, when he came back to England from Japan, and he walked up the whole length of this island to the north of Scotland with no money at all, just living off donations from people, seeing the sunset each night, sleeping under a tree and waking up each morning, whatever it might be, that there is something very powerful about getting back to the simple things in life. And we all fall into the trap of thinking, I have to have more. Your physiological needs of survival are actually taken care of. Most of us here now are in a very different position than children in some African countries who don't have enough food to put in their bellies. We've kind of got that sorted, but it's amazing how many people just keep feeding that need, and not really, or feeding the bottom needs and not going much further. So it's just worth having that sort of perspective on things. So, because at the end of the day, the next thing is, you have limited fuel in the tank. The energy, the money, whatever way you want to look at it, to get you on your journey. Let's say you want to go right to the end. You want it all, yeah? You want to have achieved all of these things so that you are living the most fulfilling life possible. The things that you're going to need are energy to keep you going, and also an awareness that you're not getting trapped. on any of these steps unnecessarily. There's a good example is, do you know Warren Buffett? Don't know Warren Buffett, don't know Warren Buffett. You don't know Warren Buffett either? Oh, he's very, very famous. You know, Warren Buffett, I wouldn't say, you don't know him personally, I wouldn't expect that. Warren Buffett is the 10th wealthiest person in the world.
Oh, what does he do then?
That's my goal, says Nicola. Warren Buffett has been very wealthy for a very long time, and he does stocks and shares and things like that. But he is, or when I last looked it up, I think he was worth just over $105 billion. And how many? So $105 billion. How many houses do you think he's got around the world?
10 at least.
I'm probably going to come out and just say, just go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's
Got
just
one.
it's not even
He's got a house he bought in 1958 with his wife.
How old is he?
Oh,
I was going to say.
he's an old man. But he has lived in the same house since 1958.
That's so cute.
He doesn't need, I think he's probably hooked on the power of making money, I don't know, but he doesn't need the showiness of having a Mar-a-Lago like Donald Trump. You know, he lives in a...
materialistic sort of thing. Like Adam Sandler walks around in like,
Yeah.
he's so rich, he literally just wears like a ripped blue t-shirt and
With that shorts.
Because he's getting, from somewhere else on this list, he's getting other things that are fulfilling him. So this makes a kind of holistic approach to living. This is where we're not just focused on purely getting as much as we can in life, but actually really exploring life, really experiencing life, yeah? Developing and growing as human beings. Because that's, I can only speak for myself, but for the journey that you've got with these 3 school year and 10, whatever they used to say, that's 17, years that you got on this planet, however many you've got, isn't it worth making this adventure the best it can possibly be? To actually develop and grow every aspect of your experience, to have an appreciation of beauty, to have got all of these things just completely sorted in your life, and to know what your life's all about, yeah? And to go beyond all of that and actually just enjoy helping others. So it's happening. May not be doesn't float your boat, but that is the archetypal path of fulfillment. So it doesn't mean that you can't slip back into other ones or get caught up in other ones. It doesn't mean that you aren't juggling several at the same time. This is just a model, okay? As Elsie will well know. So, the next thing, how we're going to travel this journey. What I call our vehicles, which was just a convenient analogy, really. Another word for it that's perhaps more easily recognisable is roles. The roles that we play in life. So, we have different roles for different things, yeah, on our journey. Daughters. I don't think I can describe any of you as wives as yet, but sisters,
Yeah.
daughters, sisters, students, career developers, all sorts of things that you might think of yourself that I don't know. Sorry? Legends, yeah, well, there you go. So there's all sorts of roles that you might play, okay, in your life. Nicola, you deal with children, don't you, in nurseries?
Yeah.
So to them, you're like a caregiver or maybe even a sort of surrogate mother almost.
Yeah, I'm
To them.
practically their mums.
Yeah. So, you take on all those roles, and like that one as an example, they're roles that you often pick up at certain times, on certain days, and put down again. So another way you might think of them is kind of like hats. You know, for masks, you wear different active masks to carry out different roles, and you invest different levels of yourself in them. In fact, you might well change your personality, adapt it, restrict it to fit those roles. Yeah?
I do that.
You recognise any of that in anything you do? Yeah. Yeah. Are you being, if you think of any of the first role that comes to your mind that's a strong role in your life, how much do you, the heart of you, inhabit that role without restriction? Kind of the very nature of a role is it's kind of got boundaries. Yeah? You can't take the children home with you at the end of the day.
Yeah, sorry, stuff now to 6 people.
But you know, they've all got their restrictions on them. But the thing is that roles in life, those vehicles we drive on our journey through life, kind of end up being quite sticky, quite controlling on us. And we start to identify with them. And this is where the problem really comes, because the role as a daughter and the role as a sister may be different. The power dynamics are different. Sorry?
I was going to say, I always say this to Elsie, because a lot of things in my life are quite separate, and it always stresses me out that the role for this thing's over there, and then the role for that thing's over there. I've got my family and my boyfriend and my uni friends and my home friends.
Yep.
And I always say I find that concept really stressful to sort of balance them all.
Certainly. This is what we call role stress. It's because we've packaged ourselves up into different roles or different masks that we try to put on for different occasions. You know, today I'm this, today I'm that. And it's difficult because none of them truly reflect who we are, and they often have different qualities to them. And it's not just you doing it, everybody you're acting with is also doing it. So we're all juggling these personalities in our life. And a lot of conflict can come up, a lot of stress as you try.
The thing that worries me about the roles is when the roles collide. So like, I always say I hate when worlds colliding, because I feel like with each people in my life, I'm very different. But then I'm like, am I being true to myself? Or do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it really
absolutely.
stresses me out. And then when people have to meet, I just get really stressed out. Because you'll get judged on like what they're like, or that it's like, well, no, this is me, but then who? Do you know what I mean? It's
I
really
do, I
confusing.
know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah. So you've started to, as we all do, identify with some of those roles. And if you identify with one role, and then you identify with a different role, and they're different people, different setups, different environments, different situations, and they come together, you know, you can't be both at the same time. They've got different boundaries. So it causes stress in life, and it doesn't allow us to be us on this journey of adventure through our life. But they're important as well. You know, they're part of our functionality. Just as language, the use of language, is limited, but serves a purpose. Yeah? You know, we all know that, for example, if you're texting, you can easily be misunderstood just by typing a few words on a text or an email, because it's a limited form of communication. So, you know, with all of these things, the boundaries help us work within them, but they stop us being able to work very readily beyond them. So awareness of those is really important. So that's one of the things I think we're going to start to try and bring into your lives, becoming aware of when those triggers arise, just as you've described, Elsie, where, you know, you've got a situation coming together.
That's actually what I get anxiety from.
Good. Well, notice it as it's happening, because the problem is that when one is identified with not just one, but several of these roles, I mean, even just one is tough enough, but when you become identified with these various roles, then you do have a problem when they come together. Now, one of the archetypal things we have in our Zen dojo, or in Zen practice generally, when you're in a ceremony, is you have two roles in the dojo, great names. There's the Chikijitsu, and the shoji. And the jikijitsu is somebody's given the role of being a jikijitsu, and that basically is they are the authoritarian. I don't wish this to be sexist, but this is just an archetypal use of language. So the jikijitsu was authoritarian father figure, you know, move along, bring the chairs in, straighten things up, sit upright, pay attention, whatever. I'm being a bit extreme, but that's the sort of role of the jikijitsu. The shoji is thought of as the mother figure, the nurturer. Got any problems? You don't know what you're eating? Anywhere you're supposed to go? Let's have a little chat. Come look after you. Now, each of the members of the Sangha, of the Buddhist community, that are appointed those roles, they might be given the role of being going to be a jikijitsu for the next, you don't know, but let's say a year. You don't actually know how long it's going to be, but you're now the jikijitsu, you're now the shoji. You're expected to fulfill those roles as an archetypal role. So you're not supposed to become like the jikijitsu and become severe. You're just the nurturing one. You're just the severe one. For months and months and months. So you're really embedded in the role. You're giving it your 100%. You have become and identified with that role. Yeah? Then with 5 minutes notice, the Zen master will come in and go, Shoji, jikijitsu. And you've now switched roles with a few minutes notice, and you are supposed to completely embody the opposite role. Having spent months developing this nurturing kindness. So your awareness is you're noticing the different qualities that each exhibit. Yeah? Can you see the benefit in that?
It would be difficult.
Very difficult. But so in life, that you don't have to do quite such extremes, but in life, it's noticing the energetic qualities that they have. And in the noticing of them, you start to disidentify. You start to free yourself from them. So the idea is that you can use them as vehicles to get you from A to B, but when you want to get out of the vehicle, and when you want to change from an aeroplane to a car, or the other way around, whatever, you've got the ability to do that. You have the presence of mind that you are not being dragged along by these roles. You are the master of these roles. Yeah? And you can do that, Elsie?
Well, it's got a lot better, I think, but it used to freak me out, but now I feel a lot like I'm just sort of like thinking is what it is, like nothing.
So
like
try and
control situation sort of thing.
so watch it. Next time it arises, just become aware of, yeah, I can see I'm starting to get anxious about that. It's interesting. Let's just watch and see what happens. Yeah? Become aware of that tension, how you feel it in your body, and then fully embodying that, allowing through time that starts to let go, and you allow things to happen and see how they develop. So try that as a practice. Whenever you become aware that these roles are becoming overly domineering, we tend to have, attached with roles in our lives, ideas, maybe passed down through society or family. What does it mean to be a good daughter? You know, tidy your room, be nice to your parents.
I think stereotypes are so difficult though, because I know, like people that I know in my family or my friends always be like, I feel like I failed in this aspect.
Absolutely.
But I'm like, that's just you telling yourself that. No one said that.
Well, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But society does pass down to us those sort of belief systems that you're supposed to do things a certain way. You know, the number of women who have postnatal depression because they don't think they can cope, and I think it's a hormonal thing as well, so I'm not really that knowledgeable. I'm treading on dangerous territory, but you know, it's that sort of thing that a lot of people just think, I can't cope with this. How am I supposed to look after a new baby? As a father, even, you know, who doesn't get so involved, you know, there's still that sense of, can I cope with this? This is a hell of a responsibility. So, you know, what am I supposed to do? Oh, okay, I'm supposed to be a Victorian dad. I'm supposed to discipline my child when they step out of line. You know, again, the shoji and the jikijitsu. I'm the father. I'm going to control that child. It's subconscious, most of this stuff. I grew up, my son grew up with me occasionally barking at him when he didn't do things right. And I'm quite loud. I have quite a forceful presence when I choose And he's a little lad, was, it's not now, he's much bigger than me now. Not brave enough to shout at him anymore. But, you know, it's doing that was a kind of me fulfilling a role that to a certain degree I'd picked up subconsciously from me as a child with my father who'd done it from his father. You know, all of this stuff restricts us. And we not only can't really live completely by those rules, but we really probably shouldn't. They're, you know, not without conscious awareness of what we're doing. Yeah? So, does that all make sense? Everybody got a good sense of that. And then we do on time. The other one is time. So, we've got our journey. A whole lifetime to fulfill all these things, to fulfill Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all our life. How long is that? How long are you going to live?
It could be an hour. That was very depressing.
Yeah, that was very hard, actually.
It's true. Could be 80 years. Could be a minute. You don't know. But it's important to be realistic about these things. You do not know. So, in that sense, you could say there's good reason to get moving. You know, there's a saying in Buddhism, in terms of Buddhist practice, that is, practice as if your hair is on fire. As in, don't waste time. Really devote yourself to becoming aware, because you never know how long you've got. On the other hand, if you get really stressed by time, you might appreciate this one. If you get really stressed by time, it's really unhealthy. And as we started by talking on week 2 about stress, but potentially really quite lethal. And even though, so I'm saying this again to you, Imogen, even though you're strong and young, stress has an accumulative effect over life. So if you're doing this for a limited period of time and things get easier, you can probably recover okay. But if you do it for a protracted period of time under great stress, as you know, it can really burn you out. So some people are more prone to time stress than others. So there are a couple of scientists who, Friedman and Rosenman. Sorry?
I love time stress. It's the only thing that makes me do anything.
Well, yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, I mean, it's important to have. For a lot of us to have time frames to work within.
It needs to be a happy time frame.
But it has to be achieved. It has to be realistic.
I'm really slow, and then I have time stress at the moment for an essay due next Wednesday or 2, and I'm time stressed.
Yeah. It's different. So, if you have if you want to get to your ultimate goal, this is level 8 on Maslow's chart, and this is your life. Okay? There are Friedman and Rosenman, basically in the 1950s, decided, and there's probably research that's said other things since, but it's a pretty good basic model, said that there are 2 types of people, type A, type B. It's kind of nice and simple. So, over time, you don't achieve a lot of your goals when you're a baby. Do you? No, you're pretty dependent on everybody else. As you start to get a bit older, you start to do a little bit more stuff, and then your skill sets get better and better. And, you know, this is level 8. How close are you going to get to it before cut-off time? Okay? Who knows? We don't know how far you're going to get. But you want to get as high up as you can. You want to have as this represents fulfillment, yeah? Inside. Now, this you might call, I could do it either way around, but type B personality. You also have type A personality. Okay? Not type B, but type A. Now, one of the things you might notice is that type A has got through a lot of their goals much quicker. Type A's tend to be people, I've got a friend of mine who was a college grad, very successful. Whenever I see him, I haven't seen him for a little while, and I'm chatting to him, he's like this. All the time, legs shaking away. Yeah, he's got nervous energy flowing through him all the time. He's got to get up, got to go and do things. And he's successful, he's an achiever. But this, I'm pretty damn sure, is wearing out his cellular life. That's, to me, the signs of hormones buzzing through your body. Adrenaline, cortisol, boom, 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 boom. Firing you up as if you need to go to war. So here's a successful type A. What you might notice is that if this is the time scale, you may achieve a lot quicker, but then you might die a lot sooner as well. I don't wish that with him, I have to say, I'm just saying. In this model, that is what it is. So, type A's tend to be characterised by people who are competitive, hate to sit still for long. I'm looking at this maybe a year bit, is it?
Yeah.
We all have a bit of both in us, and we have different circumstances that can bring a bit of both. But this is highly competitive, high achiever, can't sit still, doesn't really like to sit still. Type B, characteristically, is somebody who enjoys the journey rather than the destination. Doesn't get stressed out if they lose a game of tennis or football.
Rosie.
Yeah, that's a Rosie, yeah.
This person gets very stressed out if they lose. It's everything in life. Everything in life is a competition to type A.
We always say, so it's like us and our other friend, and on holiday we're all just so different, we'll be like different
I feel like I'm a
characters.
dose of both. You're
Yeah.
like,
Me and Rosie are contrast, Elsie's the middle, Nick's in the middle, and we'll always say like Rosie just gives me like water birth vibes, if you know what I mean by that.
Like, she don't actually just live on the beach in Australia.
That's literally her.
Yeah. So, we have these different archetypal types of people. Both have valid ways to go through the journey, and it's kind of, you are who you are. But you have to be, but being mindful of the risks. If you live your life stressed out as type A, if you can manage it, and if you find that it just motivates you forward, and yeah, you get a little bit stressed when you don't win, but you shrug it off quite quickly and move on to the next thing, and it doesn't burn through you, yeah, you can probably make that work. So, as I say, these are sort of archetypal people in a model. You are not 100% one or the other. You'll have both strains within you. But there is an element where if you are very type A, having some type B in you is quite a good thing. And probably if you're type B, having a bit of type A is as well. Because, to a type B, they need a bit of type A if they're going to meditate like their hair's on fire. Because they don't know how long they're going to live either. And type A doesn't want to die young, so they need to learn to bring in a little bit of chill into their lives as well. Friedman and Rosenman, I said they were scientists. Can you guess what sort of scientists they were? No. Cardiologists.
Oh,
So their research was based on heart attacks. So,
loads of that. I did a first aid course, and they were talking loads about like the different stages of the heart attack and stuff. It was really interesting about how they could be induced and stuff.
yeah. So, how we journey through life, how our attitude to time. Einstein would say that time and space are purely mental constructs. They're things that we've created as human beings. They're not actually real. But obviously we all live and work within an environment that communally has decided that they're relevant. So you can't not turn up at work and go, well, hey, I'm not late. Einstein says it's not real anyway. Doesn't kind of wash, does it? So we have to work within roles. We have to work within some time scheduling. We have to, but it's the art of bringing our awareness to priorities. So if we have flexibility in our roles, if we have awareness in our roles, then taking the role of childcarer seriously and thinking, is that more important than me having my second piece of toast at breakfast? This is more my sort of thing than yours probably, but being aware that actually the children need to be looked after, you're prioritising. Your awareness allows you to prioritise the things that are important. If you're stressing yourself out and you're aware you're stressing yourself out, then you can allow a bit of type B quality to go, do you know what? I've only got so long on this planet. Let me just enjoy the journey a bit. Yeah? Playing with these things, bringing conscious awareness to these things, to how much energy we've got, how much we're tied down to the roles in our lives, and the time frame we've got to work within. Those stressors are the things that make your life a pleasurable journey, a healthy journey, or a stressed out, dangerous journey. Yeah? So, it's just by way of reflection, I printed these off. These are, I don't know, half a dozen maybe? Well, 5 little printout sheets that these elderly folk, all women, had been asked, I presume in a care home or something, what their reflections on life was. Can you read that?
Oh, stop. Have you seen the little videos with the ones that's like the first love and it's all the old people talking about like
No.
when their first love? Oh, so sweet.
Oh, slow down, that's really deep. I have sometimes I like this, like really inspirational, I don't know why.
Oh, I love Doris. Mary's very practical.
Get a job.
Relates to me.
But what they all have, none of them are sitting there and saying, get a Ferrari as young as you can.
Oh, nice. Oh, it makes me think of my granny. Like she would have just gone. Like she didn't have anything. She had my granddad when she was really like in the war. And it does make me think like it's just so pointless, isn't it?
It's relevant, but up to a point. The thing is, as I'm saying, is that only you can decide, and only you should decide, what your life journey is going to be like. But it's worth reflecting that fulfillment, really deep fulfillment, doesn't stop at the nice car and the nice house, or whatever version you may have of that, or the fame on the stage. It's these are the things that when people get to the end of their days, they look back and think, this is what life was about. Love, taking time to enjoy life, love not hate. Well, they're all smiling.
These are people that know how to live the life they've done it.
Yeah. So, I think it's good to just reflect on these things. If you decide that actually, after all of this, you still want to have fame and fortune and sod the rest of it, that's fine. You decide on your path in life. So I'm just sort of giving you what studies have basically said the path ahead is likely and how it's likely to unfold depending on which of these courses of action you take. So our mindfulness for these things is really, really important. So I'm just going to read this out to myself. So so basically in terms of the goals and the energy we've got to fulfill those goals, if you bring mindful awareness as you're at each of those stages in your life. So when you're thinking to yourself, Let's say, buying a house is a really good example. I know well, I don't know, but I imagine none of you have done that yet. Buying a house is a really good example because in some way or other it touches every level of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Actually, bought a uni house moving in.
You bought it.
I mean, my friends are moving in like a couple of
Yeah.
years.
So it touches a lot of those, but theoretically you could say it touches all of those elements to it. But when you buy a house that's got 10 bedrooms and it's just you in it, you know, the question you should be asking yourself mindfully is, am I buying this because I'm going to have lots of guests? Or am I buying this because I've got a big ass and everybody else is going to be really impressed with me and look up at me? You know, so mindfulness to what it is that's motivating you, and mindfulness as to whether your energy, your focus, your drive is constantly taking you forward to new ways of experiencing life, yeah, fulfillment. Making sure that you stay mindful that the roles in your life, as they arise in the moment, are not limiting you, and that you have some degree of flexibility. Yep. And then really trying to enjoy the journey as far as time is concerned. You know, however you do it, type A or type B, it's really important that when you're doing it, that you bring mindful awareness. So if you are highly competitive, Nicola, and you just lost a game of polo, or whatever it might be, it's bringing that mindful awareness. How does that make you feel? And if what does disappointment feel like? What does anger feel like? Anger directed to yourself, you know, are they qualities that actually are enriching your life? And you experience these things by noticing in the moment. And in fact, time starts to become less and less relevant the more you live in the present moment. The more you live mindfully, and we remember what mindfulness is. It's without judgment, present moment, deliberate present moment awareness, here and now, without judgment. Just switched on. The lights are on. You are aware. And you're not judging what's coming in. You're just aware. And in that, you start to tune in to your life as it's unfolding moment by moment. You can pick up on the signals that are making you feel good and things that are making you feel bad. And you've got the freedom within the roles, as you watch those roles unfold, the freedom to go, in the bigger perspective, is this the direction I want to take it? Do I want to be made to feel mentally unwell because I've put myself into a corner? You know, only you can decide. And it's something that's ongoing. But all you really need to do with all of this, it's not about making academic decisions. The magic happens really in your subconscious. All you need to do is to be mindfully aware in the moment of whatever is arising around you. Tune into it, notice it, and think, is this fulfilling my life? Step by step up that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is this present moment, is what is happening right now fulfilling my needs? If it's not, is it a temporary thing that I've just got to put up with whilst I sidestep something or whatever? You know, you make a judgment call, but feel into things. Listen, 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 and the more you listen, even if you go against your listening in the moment, even though you get, oh, so stressed out, I can't cope with this is destroying me, but the other little voice on the shoulder goes, but you need the job. And you listen to that voice in the moment, fine. But keep listening to the other voice too. Keep listening to the other voice that is you trying to speak. And if that voice says, I've got the strength, I can get through this, fantastic. If it's saying, I haven't got the strength, this is going to break me, don't let it do that. I keep looking at Imogen, this is a conversation we had, but do you know what I mean? And that's the same with exams and everything like that. You know, your life is so much richer and more multifaceted than just, you know, 2.2 kids, mortgage, nice house, car, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and there can be nothing wrong with that, but you know what I mean. So, and your meditation practice, really, really important. The meditation, the more you get into it, and I was thinking about this the other day, Nick, like when you said, is it better that I do 10 minutes or every day or 25 minutes every few days, sort of thing? And it's a slightly difficult one. And my answer, I think, was then, and I'll sort of expand on that now. At this stage, in a way, the 10 minutes every day is probably more important because we're on a course and you're trying to develop a habit. However, what you are likely to find, certainly what I find, is the first 5 or 10 minutes of meditation. It does depend on the day and what frame I come to mind with my meditation. The first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm probably just starting to settle.
My mum said that to me today.
The next 10, 15 minutes is when you sink down more into a state of bliss. So if you want to have a habit, that it's easier to keep that habit going if you're feeling the benefits. If you're feeling like, actually, do you know what? I don't want this meditation to end. I'm just lovely. Just in a state of complete ease. I'm aware, I'm a light, but I'm in total ease. You know, I'm aware that I'm in total ease and it feels good. Well, that's what judgmental say, it feels good, but you know what I mean, it feels right. Then the 25 minutes is more likely to give you that. So just feel into all of that. But that, you know, to be able to, the meditation practice kind of sets your clock each day to be more mindful as you go through each day. As you take each step on this journey, the journey, you know, there's a book, an author called Paulo Coelho. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Writes sort of spiritual books, very simple sort of little spiritual novels. One's called The Alchemist. And an alchemist is somebody who basically they used to have them in European courts in the Middle Ages, and they were traditionally thought of as sort of the early prototype of scientists who could theoretically turn base metals like lead and steel, lead and iron, into gold through, you know, bubbling away with things. And actually, it was all symbology for transmuting or changing our innate nature from one of base existence to one of refined self-awareness. And the little book that Paulo Coelho did called The Alchemist describes this, if I remember, it's a long time ago I read it. This young man who's the alchemist sort of sleeping on a hillside, and he sort of has a dream, and it's sort of like his goal, his mission, to go off and find the truth, the purpose of whatever it is that his life's going to be. And he goes on this big adventure through the book, and guess where he ends up? Back where he started. Back right where he started. The journey is here now. Each step is your living presence in this journey. So, goal is a dangerous word because we think of it as somewhere off in the future. You know, maybe the goal is to stay alive for the next minute, you know, and awake and aware in it, really, really enjoying it, really sort of just tuned into the miracle that is life. So we have one last thing which connects to this, which I think of as saying how we let life flow through us. That sense of ease where we allow our flexibility in our roles to be adaptability to flow through our lives. That sense that we're living in the present moment and time is just unfolding as it unfolds, and we're aware, we're tuned in to what's happening around us. And we know that our goals are ultimate fulfillment, and each step of the way we're mindfully aware of them as they develop. We know that we're tuning in to know that actually now what we really need in life is love, or now what we really need in life is transcendence, or whatever it might be. And as I say, they're not completely linear. You know, you can have a bit of all of them. so that tuning into all of those things, there was a scientist in the, I think it was 1990s, called Csikszentmihalyi. His first name is Mihaly, so he's Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. What a name. I think he's Czechoslovakian. Anyhow, he talks about what's called a flow state. Anybody heard of the flow state? So flow state is when there's an absolute perfect balance between your skill and your involvement, your single-minded involvement in activity. One of the ones that I always imagine is a good example of it. You're a keen horse rider?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you just trot around country lanes, or do you go galloping across fields?
It depends what mood the horse is in.
But you've done both. Okay, so you're galloping across fields. Is that there's that moment when you're learning to ride a horse, when your skill is not up to the horse. There's you separate from the horse. Yeah, you're going along like this. And not now, but when you were learning.
Yeah, I mean, I was always on a leader as a kid.
You what?
I was always put on a leader. Stop that happening.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, being out in control.
Yeah. But there's a stage at which you become your skill and ability to ride the horse no longer requires any thought as to how you hold anything. You and the horse become at one. Yeah? There's just you, horse, riding. Yeah? Freedom. And in that moment, time kind of loses its significance. Yeah? Pain, probably, you don't even think about.
Yeah, don't think about anything.
You don't think about anything. You and the horse are one. Yeah? This is the flow state, and you can bring this state of up-one-ment to anything you do in life. Even, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, the great Zen master, doing washing up. If you purposefully wash up a bowl with your full mindful attention, you and the bowl and the washing up become as one. And this is more of the insight course really, but when you truly become at one with the horse, with the bowl, with whatever you're doing, when there is no difference between you and the horse, you, to varying degrees, become at one with everything. There's nothing that is separate. Is the field separate to you and the horse?
No, I mean,
Of course, yeah. But you're no longer one with the horse if you fall off. But you get what I'm saying?
If I chilled out, I am the horse.
Yeah. So you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just think.
So any activity that you basically put your whole awareness, your whole beingness into, becomes you. And that happens in the moment. So this is when life itself is coursing through you. And that is gotta be a worthwhile and a fulfilling thing in life. Do you find riding a horse fulfilling?
No, I'm not my kids when I'm on the horse.
Yeah. Because there's nothing separate.
No.
It's...
Little bushies.
So you can bring that state of awareness. The more that you bring this mindfulness, so people who practice meditation and mindfulness have greater, this has been scientifically studied, greater capacity to enter into a flow state than those who haven't. So that state where where life is just running through you, yep, where there's no barriers, where the roles that you feel are causing you stress and tension, they're not there. Because you're not seeing things as separate. You and the events that are unfolding in time, in that moment, are just unfolding. There is just unfolding. Yeah? There's no analysis, there's no what ifs. You're so involved in the joy of what's happening that the separation falls away. So that is more how I would like to lead my life, in the flow of life, without all the resistance. Just the same as, when we first sit to study, to do this course and to meditate, and one of the first things I say is, don't try to stop your thoughts, because you won't succeed. and everything you try to do that's embodied in stiffness in your posture and discomfort, all of that is resistance to allowing things to be how they are. The more you allow things to be as they are, remember, awareness and acceptance, two key words. You're aware of what's going on, you're tuned into everything, and you're allowing life to flow. Yeah? And then you can live a magical life. Yeah? Right. By the way, I forgot to ask at the very beginning. Anybody note down any pleasurable experiences during the last week?
Oh, sure.
You didn't note it down, no, did you?
No, I didn't. We went to the beach and it was very nice.
I feel like the whole week was good because it was my birthday, so it was a very fair week.
Well, keep trying to keep tuned in to pleasurable things, because that, you remember we said that basically you're 5 times more likely to remember and hook up on negative things. So switch the balance, bring positivity into your life. Yeah. And anybody doing walking meditation, and dare I ask, anybody give you 7 out of 7?
I actually did.
You did?
I did.
Whoa!
Really? I tried this week. I've been going for. No, look, you know, I've been going for a morning walk, and I do my little walking meditation on the way up the hill, and then the way back, and then up the steeper hill I've done, because that's too much effort. And then I've been doing it in the evening before I make food.
Sitting meditation.
Yeah.
That's
Brilliant.
I really cracked down.
Brilliant. Good. I'm so pleased, because you need to start, keep going, because it's then.
I kind of got it in a routine though now. I think before it was a bit.
I know your first week was very tricky with travelling and everything, and you were away, and it was all Zoom and all of that sort of thing. But yeah, really stick with it, because the more you do, the more you start to see the benefits. And
It's
then
been nice doing it like with the walking as well, because I'm actually doing that before I go and do the animals. I normally do the animals before I even have like a tea or a coffee. So I think that's a switch that's needed.
it's important to do these things in action, to bring mindfulness to action. So right now, how about you two?
Do you know what? Where I've been doing literally doing work all week, I've actually been good. I missed one day because I had work all day and I just was exhausted. I woke up and it just felt stressing when I went home. But other than that, I feel like I've done, although I missed a day, I've done better this week. I've done longer. So I've just been doing like uni work, and then I've had so much time.
Progress is what we're looking.
Yeah.
I do it in secret. I find this really fun game that I play of like if I'm with someone and I'll just like do it and they just won't realise I'm doing it. I'm just chilling. So like when me and my boyfriend went to Eastbourne for my birthday for a few days, we just lie on the beach all day, just wouldn't talk to each other, and just be there doing it. Which it was nice doing it in different environments as well. I thought that rather than just like the same place, like doing it in different places.
Well, doing it in the same place is really just because it's habit building. That's the only thing. But I mean, doing it in, exploring doing it in other places, if you can do that and still maintain the habit, fine.
I've done it in the garden a lot this week, just in the evening time. My dog will just be there. I think that's so relaxing. And I also did it in the waiting room today in the doctor's.
Good.
It only did like 5 minutes, but I thought, because we're doing it today, but I was like, you know what, I'm actually going to try it. It was
Good.
actually fine.
Good. Okay, well that's all very positive. Lovely. Right, should we do our practice? As time is ticking, I won't record this for Jackie because it just adds another 25 minutes to the recording.
I've been sitting like this the whole time.
But it's all on the audio thing, Jackie.